When people think about the future of the human species, one idea that often comes up is, maybe in the future, males will no longer exist, and the world will be made up entirely of females. Many people dismiss this idea, but I actually think it's very realistic, and I'm gonna explain why. First, let's look at the purpose of males and females in the first place. In sexually reproducing species, individuals who possess traits that allow them to produce more offspring than average will pass on more of their genes to the next generation than those that don't possess that trait. But, one of the main limiting factors is the cost of producing offspring. Producing offspring consumes resources like time, energy, and nutrients. There are two different strategies for dealing with this problem, essentially, quantity over quality, or quality over quantity. Different species can also be seen choosing these different avenues. Species like frogs and mice choose a strategy of producing as many offspring, as fast as possible. In some ways, this is a safer bet because chances are good that some of those offspring happen to acquire a better combination of genes than either of their parents. Plus, the risk is much more spread out. If one individual gets unlucky, there are still many brothers and sisters that hopefully had better luck. On the other hand, animals like humans or horses, generally put more emphasis on the quality of their offspring. Overall, this is a lot more efficient than producing a lot of offspring, just for most of them to not survive anyway, so it can save a lot of resources. The downside is that it puts all your eggs in one basket, so it's a very risky strategy. Males and females are also different in the way they approach these two strategies. Because males of many species invest so much fewer resources in growing the offspring than the females do, males prefer to put an emphasis on the quantity of offspring, whereas females emphasize quality, because they're investing so much more. Some species are hermaphroditic, where every member of that species possess both male and female organs. This has the advantage, not only of simplicity, but also of being able to choose a mate from the wider range of individuals, whereas sexed species can only ever mate with individuals of the opposite sex. The reason sexes tend to differentiate within a population is because, under the right circumstance, a male can put all his resources into reproducing with as many females as possible, and avoid having to heavily invest in the growing of offspring the way a female or hermaphrodite would. However, a natural consequence of this is that those that are investing more resources into growing their offspring become much pickier about the male they reproduce with. If a female has the opportunity to mate with an individual that is more genetically fit than average, then it can be a fair trade that the male won't also bear her offspring, the same way she will his. And the further consequence is that not all males have an equal opportunity to reproduce. Females will prefer to choose the best fit males, leaving some males with little opportunity. This brings us to humans. The unique thing about humans is that we can manipulate our environment. We are not nearly as constrained to nature as much as other species are, and in modern times, this even extends to our sex and gender. If a human decides that it's worth the cost of changing their sex, then that has the potential to be a valuable opportunity. Males that have poor mating options can become female, bettering their odds of finding a fit partner. Females that are especially fit have the option of becoming male, maximizing the quantity of children they can produce. With current reproductive technologies, even the need to choose a definite gender becomes irrelevant, as long as the financial cost can be had, and laws don't impede. Any male or female can have their sperm or eggs frozen, and with a donor egg, use a surrogate mother to bear a child. It can be assumed that humans will adapt to take advantage of these options, and that people who can more easily convert from one sex to the other will have an evolutionary advantage, and be selected for over time. Of the people who wish to reproduce as the opposite sex, genetic females will be given a huge advantage over genetic males. As technology advances, sperm should be quite easily produced in the lab, giving any female the ability to choose to reproduce as male. On the other hand, genetic males must not only have eggs produced in the lab, but without a natural uterus, are also left with some expensive and unsatisfactory options for developing the embryo. Under these conditions, it can be assumed that genetic females will have an evolutionary advantage over genetic males, by being more easily able to change reproductive strategies. After this point, it would become a safer strategy for couples to choose to have only female children, since females could easily become male if it were more beneficial for them to do so. Whereas that would not be true for a male child, and would carry a greater risk, with little reward. Over time, a greater percentage of the population will be genetically female, until it becomes the norm. Maleness will still exist as a reproductive strategy, but the Y chromosome will likely go extinct. The end result will be a population of humans that are always born genetically female, and with the most desirable of the population choosing to become male after adulthood.